The woman signed the divorce papers, took off the wedding ring she had worn for 3 years, dragged her suitcase, and left the home she had lived in for 3 years without a second glance. She called a courier and sent back the fake letter of forgiveness her husband had carefully forged, then walked away from the city that had completely broken her heart. 3 years ago, on the day of her wedding, she saw with her own eyes her best friend run over and kill her mother. What hurt her most was not her mother's death, but her fiancé's betrayal. Not only did he not stand up for her, he even pulled out a marriage certificate with her best friend in front of everyone. She swore to send that woman to jail, but her fiancé kicked her to the ground. In that moment, the victim became the joke of the whole crowd. Just as she was drowning in despair, her childhood friend showed up. He knelt on one knee and proposed, promising to help her get justice. She thought she had finally found salvation, but she had no idea. This marriage was just another crueler trap. 3 years later, while delivering lunch to her husband, she overheard his assistant talking and finally realized something was wrong. It turned out the only reason he married her was to get that letter of forgiveness. She thought her best friend had already been sentenced, but the verdict was completely fake. The truth was, her best friend had been sent abroad by her husband and had been living in luxury for the past 3 years. She broke down. She couldn't believe someone could scheme this deeply for another person. That night, maybe out of guilt, her husband took off his coat and draped it over her shoulders, but all she felt was disgust. She couldn't stand this fake man anymore. She didn't explode on the spot. Instead, she waited until he answered a call and quietly opened his laptop. In the next second, her world completely collapsed. His desktop background was a photo of the villa her best friend now lived in. His only social media follow was her. The clothes, jewelry, shoes and bags were all brands under his company. The hotel she had been living in for 3 years was actually his overseas property. He had been sending $1 million every month without missing a single payment for 3 years. She finally understood. This marriage was nothing but a cruel joke from the beginning. Without hesitation, she booked a flight for 3 days later, deleted all her identity records, then took that forged letter of forgiveness and went straight to her husband's company. As soon as she walked in, she heard a familiar voice. It was her best friend sweet-talking her husband, and her husband saying she must be a kind-hearted girl, that everything in the past was probably just a misunderstanding. Then he pulled out a luxury handbag just to please her, but as he turned around, he suddenly saw the woman standing at the office door.